Franck Vogel works as a photojournalist specializing in water, environmental, climate, and social change issues for the international press and different international press, such as like Geo, Paris Match, Stern, Bloomberg. He is also a speaker, a documentary film director for France Télévisions, and an everyday climate change Instagram feed contributor. I don't know if you are aware about it, but it's a very, very famous one, very interesting one. Best known for his works of the Bishnois, the world's first ecologist in India, and the albinos in Tanzania. He is currently focusing on global water conflicts with the Transboundary Rivers project and has already completed stories on 7 major rivers featured by Geo magazine, the BBC or TF1, or in exhibition as well, in different lectures. A 2-volume book, Sets, will be released by La Martinière Publishing, and the first volume has been launched in France in 2016. Thank you very much, Franck, for being with us today. Thank you, and please welcome on stage, Franck.
Thank you very much for welcoming me here. Thank you, Mr. Pavi, and ESSEC Business School. And I'm really happy to talk to you today. I heard that you are 805, which is great. Yesterday I gave a talk at ESCP in Berlin campus, and I had 400 people also. So I'm really glad to continue my mission to inspire future leaders. So today, I want first. Okay, that's yeah. Okay, I will start like this. I want to first also to wish you a very happy New Year, because I think it's important, and especially for you. Your life is gonna started already, but now it's a real new start, I think. And for me, like I was sitting in your seats about 18 years ago now, not in l'ESSEC. I was doing AgroParisTech, another engineering school. And so 18 years ago, I was sitting like you, and one alumni from AgroParisTech told us that it's very important to travel before starting to work after graduation. And so he told us, just go, travel, and see the world, and you learn a lot. And he inspired me a lot. And so that was in 2001. And I managed to get some sponsors to do a trip in Africa and Asia. But then happened September 11th, 2001. And I lost 90% of my sponsors. So I had only 1,500 euro. So imagine, I was like, okay, how will I do that? It's almost impossible. And I met a man who's called André Bougiroux, and he did a world tour in the 60s and 70s, and it took him 18 years with $1 a day. And he told me, just do it doing hitchhiking. So, okay, I never did it before, but okay, let's try. So I went to Nairobi. That was my first stop. And I didn't know how to do hitchhiking. I didn't know much about traveling. And I arrived there. It was quite dangerous, many street boys. Now it's safer. But at this time, it was really difficult and a bit dangerous. And after 4 days, so I was scared in the hostel I was staying. People told me, you cannot go out with your passport, with your money, with your camera. So I said, well, what can I do? I'm completely stuck here. What can I do? And I went a little bit out, but only during daytime. And after 4 days, I realized that I didn't have the guts to do this. I was like, come on, what are you doing? You're crazy. You're here in Nairobi, completely scared, and you better go home. You better buy a ticket back home, back to France. And at this moment, I realized that if I buy a ticket home, everybody, all my friends will tell me, oh, the guy who did the world tour in 4 days. Wow. you're a loser. That's it, you know? So actually this kind of, I didn't want to fail, and I didn't want to be a loser. So I said, okay, I have to do something. And actually it gave me an extra energy to open myself and to start talking with a cook from the guest house. And he told me, just visit my family. It's about 150 kilometers away. And so I jumped on a matatu. It's a local bus, crowded with chicken, whatever, you have everything on it. And it's really packed. And I went on, and I never met his family, but I met another guy. It's called Julius. And he took me inside his home during, actually, I stayed with him. It was supposed to be one night. We stayed 1 week together. And after this week, spending in his village, I had to do hitchhiking because it was really remote. And so the journey started really. And so I did hitchhiking with almost everything. Cars, trucks, camels, elephants, a lot of things. And it cost me zero, the traveling part, except the plane tickets, and I didn't have many. And during this trip, I met amazing people. I was even adopted by Maasai people in Kenya. They took me for a lion hunt, and good that we didn't get him because I didn't want to kill a lion, but it was amazing. And so we went together, we spent 2 weeks together, and it was really inspiring. And after this, during the trip, I wanted also to kind of find myself, find the kind of mission I had to do. And so I went to India, to the Indian Himalayas, and that's where I got my first meditation lesson, and from a monk. And the real click in my head happened some months later in Burma, in north of Burma, in a monastery in the middle of a lake, which was quite amazing. It's called Indoji Lake. And I was asking the head monk if I could maybe do some meditation here. Nobody was speaking English except just a school teacher. And so they called him, and I explained them that I would like to maybe do some meditation. And so the head monk said, okay, let's do it together. I start Monday. And so you can join me. I do it 7 days, 4 hours per day. So imagine, I don't know if you did meditation. You do it just 20 minutes, half an hour, one time, it's okay. You don't have too much pain. But if you do it 4 hours a day, you have pain all over your body. And I wanted to quit so many times. And finally, I managed to master the pain, to get rid of the pain mentally, and to really focus on the meditation and on what I wanted to do in my life. And I realized that after all this pain, that what I really wanted to do is not being a consultant or an engineer, is actually what I was doing right now at this moment, was traveling, meeting new people, taking photos because I love taking photos, was a passion, and also inspiring people. That was in my head. And when I came back in 2003, it was a tough journey. I will tell you about it later. But during this journey, I also met a man who told me about the Bishnoi. The Bishnoi actually is a community in India that lives in harmony with wildlife and environment since the 15th century. Very inspiring. Actually, they integrated everything we call nowadays sustainable development since over 500 years. And it happened during a severe drought in the 15th century that lasted about 10 years. So no rain in the Thar Desert in Rajasthan, and people got crazy. And so at this moment, one man just started to talk. His name is Jambeshwar. And he told the people, if you continue acting like this, like killing animals to eat meat, to cut the trees, to sell them, to get some money to eat, you're going to destroy everything, and it's going to be completely dead. You won't survive here. So you have to change. Either you die here, now, doing exactly what you do, or you migrate to another place. Nowadays we know about the migrants because of wars and economic bad situations. But, or you change your way of living, and you can continue living here, at your home. And he told them, you have to change your habits completely. First thing, no more meat. You have to respect animals, and you have to protect them. And you're not superior. You're the same level, so you have to share with them. And he created the first eco-tax. So people have to share 10% of the income or the grains for wild animals. And also water. So it's quite amazing to see this 500 years ago. And he also told them to plant trees to stop the desert moving forward. And so each Bishnoi has to plant 1 tree per year, and to water it, also to share the water with it. And so it's a community of about 700 to 800,000 people, and they really live in total harmony with wildlife and environment. And you can see we're not in a zoo here. Those are wild animals, the gazelles, but you have also antelopes and a lot of other animals, but mainly gazelles. And those animals, you see them? That's a priest, a Bishnoi priest. They're eating in their hands because they're protecting them since 500 years. And they know that they don't have to fear from them. So it's really touching and very inspiring to be with them. And actually this story, so that was in 2000, so the man I met during the world tour told me in 2006 about them. Nobody knew about them. And I was kind of the first to really be accepted by them. And so nowadays, some years later, they named me ambassador. So I'm their ambassador, actually, outside of India, this community. And this community actually helped me to become a photographer and to live from photography, because it's not easy. So it took me 5 years. Remember, I came back after the trip in beginning 2003, and it took me 5 years. So in end of 2005, everybody wanted to publish this because it was cool. Nobody knew about them. So it was published worldwide, over 25 countries, many exhibitions. French TV asked me to do a documentary film, which was broadcasted in many countries as well. And actually, this community helped me to do what I do now. Without them, I wouldn't be here talking. And I also learned a lot about water issues with them. In the desert, you don't have much water. So water is very important. That actually is going to be the main topic from today, but water is the source of life. And if you look at the surface of the Earth, you have 70% of the surface which is water, covered with water, oceans. It's the same amount, the same ratio than in your body. You have also 71% of water inside your body. And if you look at the fresh water, it's less than 1% of the whole water we have on Earth. And if you go have a bigger perspective, you look at it from the universe, there is less water in the universe than gold, and much less. So if you realize this, you just think a bit different. It's not like just open your tap and you get water. Just think how rare it is and why you should really protect it and not waste it. And with the Bishnoi, the same. Each time they want to build a house, before that, they have to dig a well. They never build a house without this. You cannot live. That's it. And that's why I focused on water, and I started this big project on transboundary rivers, which actually started in 2012. But I had a meeting in 2011. That's how everything started, actually. In 2011, I was invited by the water director of Green Cross. It's an international NGO founded by Mikhail Gorbachev, and they named me ambassador some years later. And she told me about the problem that actually Egypt and Sudan will face because of a new dam, of the Millennium Dam that Ethiopia is going to build. And actually now in 2019, it's going to be completed end of the year. So the impact will be seen soon. But at this time, I wanted to show us, to explain and to see what is going on really in Ethiopia, in South Sudan, and in Egypt, and to give an idea, a geopolitical point of view of the water for the Nile. And when actually I was working on it, 3 months there, I realized that, okay, the Nile has a problem, maybe water war, something coming up, but other countries, other rivers, transboundary rivers, must have problem as well. Maybe different, but problem as well. So that's how I built this list of rivers. So I did the Nile, as I told you, the Brahmaputra, the second one, the Colorado River, and I will focus more just 2 minutes later on the Colorado, the Jordan River, the Mekong, the Ganges, the Zambezi. I just completed the Zambezi last year, and I will finish the Danube in May. All of them have been published by Geo, as Mr. Pavi told you. And the first volume of the book has been published in 2016. And actually, normally it should be a second volume, but now I'm working with UNESCO, and they want to be co-publisher of the book, and they want to have a single book with all 8 rivers, and to publish it not only in France, but worldwide. So it's going to be an English edition, French, German, and maybe others. But normally those 3 should be, and it should be released in 2020. So I think it's even better to have it like worldwide, to touch even more people. So this project is not only about poor countries. That's also important to focus on, because everybody imagines that poor countries are not able to manage their water, which is not true. Some are doing very well, some not, of course, but you have also rich countries. So that's why I want to focus today on the Colorado. The Colorado, everybody knows it. It's a mythical river, mighty Colorado, Grand Canyon, here, Grand Canyon. Actually, the Colorado took 20 million years to dig the Grand Canyon. So it's kind of a magical place. Everybody knows it. Just want to know who went to the Grand Canyon, who did see the Colorado? Okay, some. But everybody knows the Colorado River. But did you know that the Colorado River is not flowing to the sea anymore? Who knew that the Colorado River is not flowing to the sea anymore? Okay, you have some, maybe 10%. It's amazing. I will explain you why. But before I just give you a little, can I just go here? So you can see, I just give you some geographical information. Just you'll understand a bit better later when you see the photos. So the Colorado is taking the sources here in the Colorado, in the Rockies, and then it's flowing down up to Lake Powell, and that's the first big dam, this Glen Canyon Dam. And then you have Lake Mead, Las Vegas just nearby, Hoover Dam, continue. you go here. Here is the border with Mexico. And you have the last American dam. It's called Morelos Dam. And those are the last 110 kilometers, the delta, which is now completely dry. And you'll understand why later. And just to show you another thing, very important, you see this little canal here? This is the All-American Canal and has been built in the 30s to irrigate this area, which is called Imperial Valley. Just look at where it is located, and I will tell you more later. And two other things. Here, you see this is the Navajo Nation, the Navajo land, okay? Which is drying every day more. And here are the San Juan Mountains, okay? Navajo Nation, San Juan Mountains. That's about 300 kilometers. You understand why I show you all this. Okay, so here, the first thing you see when you look at the Colorado, here we are at Lake Powell, you see that the level is going down. And you can really see it here. You see here? The marks here, the white marks. The Navajo people call them the bass tube marks. Since over 10 years now, the water is going down, down, down. Always less water because of less rain, because of climate change, because of a lot of things. But this is a fact, okay? In 2015, in April 2015, when I did the story, I went to Los Angeles. And at this time, I don't know if you remember, the governor of California said, you're not allowed to water your lawns anymore. Otherwise, you'll have a fine, and you better plant, you better plant desert gardens, because California is not a land of water. It's more a desert at the beginning. They use a lot of water from the Colorado, but usually it's like this. And in 2015, actually the aquifer in California was very, very low, was critical. And the aquifer, or not the underground water, is not filling up. Actually, there is no rivers filling this aquifer up. It's like prehistoric water. And so they're pumping inside this water since many, many years. And they realize that there is less water from the Colorado, almost nothing left in the aquifer. What are people going to do? So actually at this time, the people I was staying with in West Hollywood here, they decided to sell the house. And actually not only them, many people, when they realized that less water will be here available. And now with the fires, it's even more. So people are selling their houses, fearing to lose money if they sell too late. Because if California has no more water, you cannot live, okay? And a funny thing is, so here is a good family, here is a bad family. But actually, in the US, you find always very optimistic people. And a company has been created just at this moment, a startup actually, and telling to the people, okay, don't water your gardens, your lawns, let it dry, we come and we paint it for you in green. So they painted the lawns in green. This is not a painted one, but you have many signposts saying this one has been painted. We don't have to pay a fine for that because we didn't use water. And it's a bit funny, but it's also the US, okay? And so during this time, people understood a bit more, but didn't get the real picture of what is going on. And so there were a lot of debates on TV, beat the drought, blah, 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 blah. And what the journalists and speakers were focusing on was Las Vegas, the city in the middle of the desert using so much water, 2 million inhabitants, 40 million tourists per year, golf courses and all that. But if you look at the figures, how much water they are using, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, golf courses, all these industries, it's only 30% of the Colorado water. So where is the rest going? You'll see later, I will explain you, but that's the first question. Only 30%, that's not that much. At the same time, you go to Navajo Nation. It's getting drier and drier every day. The wells are drying up. You have even fights between villages inside the reservation. And it's very difficult for them. And all the projects, like the pipeline, water pipeline project, have been cancelled or stopped mainly because of white farmers. Normally they have the water right as well, because they were supposed to be here before. They are here before. And in the US, the water right is something very important. It's not like in France or in Europe. The water right is something you own. If you own the land, you own the water. And you can give it to your son, to your daughter, or sell it. And actually, it's first come, first served. So if you get the land, you get the water with it. And in 1922, they gave this different types of amount of water to the different people, to the different states. But at this time, it was a little too much water. A lot of rain, floods, and so the amounts they calculated were too high for today. So now people are using water, but they're in their rights. They are not over-exploiting the water they have. They have the right to do it, like farmers and so on. But the Navajo are also supposed to have those rights, but they don't. This is Navajo Veteran Cemetery. I just had I found this cemetery just after a meeting with the Minister of Water from the Navajo Nation. And he told me about all these projects canceled and the trials, and they never win, except just recently, but most of the time they lose. And it's very strange that especially the Navajo have no right at all. Because did you know that without the Navajo, the world we live in wouldn't be the same? And you know why? Because thanks to them, the Allies and the US and France won Second World War. Without them, the Nazi would rule today. And I'm not joking. You know why? Because the Navajo were used as radio. They transmitted the information where to hit, where to send bombs. And Nazi never managed to decode the language. That's how the US, France, and Allies won the war. And many people forget about this. And you see, they get no water. And with this flag, at the beginning when I took the photo, I was a bit, come on, that's too bad to have a nice photo and the flag is torn apart by the wind, but actually it's a good image of what is going on in the US. Because you have the people at the top with the water, white people mainly, and the others without water. So inside the US. And since I told you the Navajo Nation is getting dry and dry every day, you imagine there is always more and more dust, sand dust. And you have a lot of dust roads there. So people are driving with a 4x4. And actually, this sand dust is moving with a little storm, not much, 300 kilometers away. I was working with NASA on this project, and actually they managed to explain that this sand dust coming from Navajo Nation is flying these 300 kilometers on the snowpacks of the San Juan Mountains, which actually is providing a lot of water to the Colorado River. And imagine a snowpack covered with some dust. The snow is not white anymore. So it's not reflecting anymore. So what's happening? Melting. The snow is melting. And in 2013, all the snow melted 2 months before the actual date. So imagine no water during 2 months for the Colorado. The snow is regulating, the amount of water. Nothing. So in 2013, the water levels in Lake Powell, Lake Mead, and the Colorado were the lowest in history because of this. And they managed to explain it, but of course Trump doesn't agree with it, but they're working now since many years, and they are having projects in Nepal, other countries are asking them to explain why things are going on and to explain from where the sun dust is coming and what to do to stop this. And there are many ways to stop it, actually. But, so those are facts, okay? And when you go to the border with Mexico, here, this is the US, okay? That's the Colorado in the US. That's the last dam, Morelos Dam. And this is the Colorado in Mexico. And here you see still a bit of water. But nowadays, even 1 year later, no more water. And you know why? Because here you have water, because Robert Redford in 2014 said it's not possible that the Colorado River, our Colorado River, is not flowing into the sea anymore. And he managed to convince authorities to open the dam for 5 weeks. Only 5 weeks, and then shut it down again. So that means, so I took the photo, I was there some months later. So of course there is a bit of water. It's a bit green. But 6 months before this, it was dry. And now it's dry again. So since 15 years, the Colorado River is not flowing into the sea. Even when they opened 5 weeks, they reached only 90 kilometers. They didn't reach the sea. And when you look here, here is a canal. And you'll see it better here. Remember on the map, the All-American Canal I told you? So this canal is bringing the water to the Imperial Valley, to 300 farmers. 300. And those 300 farmers, at the beginning, they were just producing vegetables, carrots, potatoes, cabbage, for the US during the winter. But 15 years ago, they realized that they didn't use all the water rights to produce those vegetables. And so they tried to find a way to use more water. And so they decided to plant alfalfa, which is a kind of grass. They do hay with it, and very energetic for cows and cattle. And so they planted a lot of them. Actually, this alfalfa is a plant that uses the most of water on Earth. And in the meantime, they have cattle. Here, a farm. I came there. This farm has 90,000 cows, 90, for meat, in a desert. And the cows are they have sunshades, sprinklers it's crazy, really. They're 40, 45 degrees there. And this is the alfalfa here they're producing. They also produce corn. And this is to feed the animals. And this takes a lot of water. And actually, the worst part is this alfalfa they produce, of course they dry it, do hay with it. Most of it, 60%, is exported from the US. It's even not for Imperial Valley, not for the US. It's for Asia. China and Japan. Have you heard about the Kobe beef? Most expensive beef on earth? The Kobe beef, the Kobe cows, are only eating alfalfa from here. It's supposed to be the best one. So imagine, it's a bit crazy, but it's like this. And to produce 200 grams of meat, of beef, here you have a Big Mac. That's a Mexican family working inside the Imperial Valley. And so they bought 3 meals, 3 Big Macs. 1 Big Mac, or 200 grams of beef, meat. You know how much water it takes to produce 200 grams of beef? 3,500 liters. That's virtual water. That's not what the water consumed by the cow, of course. But it's mainly to produce alfalfa, corn, and the food for the cow. That's about 6 years of each of your water consumption. 6 years for just 200 grams of beef. So just imagine. And at the end, the Colorado River, the delta, is completely dry. So it looks very nice from the air. You see? It's like tree roots, but it's a bit sad to see this. It's like tree roots without sap. Nothing inside. No more water. And actually to get rid of the problem of water in California, it's quite easy. Actually, I met a professor from Arizona University, and he told me, you know, it's very simple to get rid of the problem, the water problem, like to really have no more water problem for California. Actually, if the 300 farmers, which are using actually 70% of all California water, so they use 300 people are using 70% of all the California's water. That's 40 million people. Only 300. And nobody talks about this because they don't want to talk about it. And if those 300 people are just not irrigating alfalfa during the 3 summer months, just alfalfa, California would double its amount of water. So no more problem for California. And if, I'm always optimistic, if they just get rid of alfalfa or irrigate, get rid of it actually. If you get rid of it, the Colorado River would flow again to the ocean. So it's very simple to change things. But there are billions of dollars involved. And actually, to change this water rights, you have to change, it's in an amendment of the Constitution. And so that's why Obama didn't do anything. Because he needs 70% of the Congress vote to change this, how water is allocated. And he knew he wouldn't get it. So he didn't talk about it. And I was a bit shocked that he didn't do anything. Trump won't do anything, of course. But who knows, the next one maybe will, or the society will push to change things. This is what actually I tell the people. People have the power to do things. You have the vote rights, and you have also your credit card. You can buy less meat. Maybe you don't eat meat during one day, especially no beef. You can eat beef, that's not a problem, but just eat less beef. And if you buy less beef, they produce less cows, and less, you have a big impact on it. And just to finish the talk today, there is one good thing. The Navajo just recently got a $200 million kind of contract from the government to build a new pipeline, a water pipeline. I don't know if it's going to work, but they got it. Another tribe, it's called the Gila River Tribe. They also got a project which has been approved recently. So things are moving. And this is why you have to be positive and you have to be positive, that's it. Never be negative, because otherwise you will never do anything good. So people believe in it. And just to finish, I want to tell you a little story. Oh yeah, here's water. I just want to tell you a little story. During my trip, I met a shaman in the Navajo reservation. And she's Navajo and Lakota. It's another tribe. And in the Lakota tradition, water is life, but it's also alive, able to hear us and to speak to us. That's what they believe. And one day, she was praying inside the lake, half, legs inside the lake, and praying with her drum. And just at this moment, the water started to talk to her and said, "Do you know you're doing good praying inside the water?" And she was at the beginning, the first time it happened to her. And she said, "Oh, who are you?" And the water told her, I'm the water. Okay, so can I teach you something? So she said, okay, let me teach you. Yeah, of course, teach me something. So the water told her, since you're in the water, your prayers are going much, much farther than just if you pray on the ground. You know why? Because your prayers are going inside this lake. All the molecules, the water molecules inside this lake, will maybe in some hours, in some weeks, in some months, evaporate, go up to the sky, to the clouds. The clouds will move, and maybe 1 month later, the same molecules will go down through, fall down as like snow over the Andes, and so your prayer will reach up to the Andes. And actually, it's a cycle. It's a water cycle. It's always the same. And the water told her, the water is traveling in space, but it's also able to travel in time. So she told her, what? How can water travel in time? And she told her, you see, the water you're drinking or you're praying in, it's the same water that used to be drunk by dinosaurs, Neanderthal people, your grandparents, your friends, your children. It's the same water since the origin of Earth. The same cycle. There's no other water. The same. And actually the water here, links you with the past, the present, and the future. Just think about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Franck Vogel. Very inspiring talk. Thank you very much. Thank you. To continue the discussion, I would like to invite some students. So some students, they prepare their questions. So if you want to join Franck on stage, where are you?
Thank you, sir, for the nice speech. So I was looking at your images, and they're just not images, they speak life. What is your preparation before you go on shoot? Like, do you think of a story beforehand, or do you just go there and you do something? Like, what's it all about?
Actually, you have to prepare every story. You have to prepare a bit, especially if about rivers. It's like geopolitics, so you have to know a bit more. I contact a lot of people before, activists, politicians, scientists, a lot of people, and try to kind of build the story. But then you have to be always open to new things, because you learn a lot when you are in the field, much more than from the, actually the story is halfway only. When you work on it through internet, you connect with people and all that, you know half of it. And you know the other part when you're on the field. So it's important to not just focusing on what you knew already from internet, from the interviews, for all this, but you have to be in the field and try to be open. That's it.
You started photography early 2000s, maybe 2003 sometime. And photography has really changed over the years. It's become very digital. There's a lot of editing which is involved. And so what I wanted to ask you was that, to what extent is editing a picture really okay to you? Like, when does it become, thus far and no further? This changes how it actually looked when I was taking the picture,
Yeah, actually, I started photography when we had slides. Yeah. So I didn't know about digital, and I changed into digital. Actually, the Bishnoi project was the first I shot in digital, and because at this time it was okay. Before the quality was really bad, but then it started to be okay, to be good. It was a 5D at this time, Canon 5D, and actually I'm not too much into over editing, over sharpening, it has to be real. If it's not real, everybody will see it, and like a lot of young photographers over-edit images. And it's people, everybody's going to look at it, okay, that's not real.
It's nothing like the actual.
Yeah, it has to be real. If it doesn't look real, it's not good for me.
You have done a lot of projects over transboundary rivers and the problems about it, like the Brahmaputra, and the countries are trying to build as many dams as possible within their country to control the water flow within their land. Yeah. So is there any plausible solution which has been affected between countries, or do you suggest some solution, or what can be done about it? Because the wars are still being fought, like the countries are still building dams to control the water.
It's difficult because dams, it's a way to control water. It's a way to generate electricity. It's a way to have the power of the other country. This is why China is so, about Tibet. Tibet is kind of the water tank of Asia. So it's very important for China. And so for transboundary rivers, it should be some institution like the UN, but with more power, able to tell the countries, you cannot, like the US, same. It's not for me, it's just impossible that the country is taking all the water from the other one. Mexico has no more water. And to really rule this, other countries cannot rule to tell, who can tell the US you do wrong? Who can tell to China you do wrong? It's very difficult. So somebody, like an institution, should be topping this, really focusing on respecting the environment and the water. And, like kind of a UN, but with more power. The UN, I'm working with the UN and with UNESCO, and actually they don't have much power. This is the problem. They can just advise, but cannot say, okay, you have to do it. And this is a major problem nowadays, I think.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Franck Vogel. Thank you very much. Thank you, students, for being there. Thank you. Great, inspiring talk. Thank you again.